Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to Reddit Aliens. I'm John, your host today, and a great classic topic today. Let's do it. What are the most creepy or unexplainable things that have ever happened to you? Please remember to like, share, and subscribe.
I was working at a clothing store when I was 16. I clocked in but couldn't find a name tag, so I put on someone else's. It was pouring rain outside, so the store was pretty quiet. As I was putting away go bags, someone I had never seen before said my real name. She was a middle-aged woman about my height, not too many distinguishing features that I remember. I looked at her confused but said, "Hi, how can I help you?" Her: "This is going to sound crazy, I know." "Okay, what's up?" Her: How do I prove this?" "Okay, you were about 8 when your parents got divorced, but you're not sure. You don't remember much after that, and your dreams have always been in black and white, right?" "Me, what the, yeah." Her: "I'm not here to shop. I had to come up here in this weather to tell you something." "Me, okay, what?" Her: "It's going to be okay. It won't always feel like it, but it will be." Before I could respond, she left the store. Me and my family took the train once to a vacation spot, and after reaching its final destination, we'd have to travel the rest by bus. That destination was in front of an empty shopping mall, at least that's how it appeared. There's 2 entrances or exits on opposite sides of one main hall. We went outside through the other exit to wait for the bus. Not even 5 minutes later, it started to rain, so we went back in. But all of a sudden, the mall was lively, full of people. I'm still contemplating whether it was actually 5 minutes or if we entered another reality. One night I woke up from hearing a song from Shrek 2 when the fairy sings "I Need a Hero," playing really loud, scared me to death. My husband and I were both in bed and the sound came from the kitchen. Turned out, we put it on pause and didn't close the laptop. Our cat sat on the keyboard and turned it on. We've never left the laptop on since then. I lived in a pretty weird house growing up. It was built in the 1880s on top of an old train station. You couldn't dig in the backyard because it was only 5 inches, then cobblestone and brick. For a good 65 years, it was a boarding. Then the couple who lived in it before us were elderly and committed suicide. For most of my childhood, doors would randomly open and shut throughout the house, and sometimes late at night, I'd hear whispering coming from my bedroom closet, so I rarely stayed home alone. My dad is an atheist and said it was all in our heads, but my mom once admitted one day she was standing at the 2nd floor landing when she felt what she was certain was her dad's hand on her shoulder, but then she lost her balance and fell down the stairs. She believed she was pushed. For me, it was one morning in December when I was 9. I woke up to my nightstand light being right in my face, crazy bright. I looked down and saw a man with glasses at the foot of my bed, staring at me menacingly. I couldn't move and I was terrified. I feel it. He wasn't just standing there. I could feel malevolent intent. I tried to scream but just couldn't. He started moving around my bed, getting closer and closer till he was right next to me. I blinked and he was gone. I ran screaming downstairs where my parents were just having coffee. They laughed and just said it was a nightmare. It's always strange to me that if it was just a nightmare, then why half a life later I still remember it like it was yesterday. I still wake up screaming some nights. A weird quirk of mine is that when I stand up too fast, I'll see spots in my vision and sometimes will gray out for a brief moment of time, 5 to 10 seconds at most. I was home alone one time watching TV in my living room sitting on my couch. I got up to grab a snack from the kitchen and sure enough my vision grays out from standing up too quick. When I turn my head toward the kitchen, I see a gray humanoid figure standing in my kitchen. My vision comes back almost immediately after. It freaked me out for sure, but it was probably just a profile of my vision graying out rather than some paranormal entity. Out of all the times my vision is grayed out, this was the only time I ever saw a gray humanoid.
Alright, I'll try to be a skeptic for this one and say maybe you just have some low blood pressure stuff going on. I don't know. Or ghosts. Or aliens.
During Christmas, I usually put something in my room to decorate. Last year, I put a giant elf teddy beside my desk. I was home alone downstairs playing on my Xbox. My phone was charging upstairs in my room. After about 2 hours, I go up to get my phone, guessing it's fully charged. I usually have my bedroom door open, but when I went upstairs, I saw my door was closed. I thought nothing of it, but once I went inside my room, I froze. You can probably guess what I saw. The teddy elf was moved into the corner of my room, facing the door. I ran downstairs so fast and locked myself in a room until my family got home. The next day, I went to take a picture of my dog because he was in a cute position beside me. When I opened my camera, I noticed that 3 photos of just total darkness were taken 1 hour before I went upstairs. Still creeped out today. This still happens to this day every night in my house. Side note, my house isn't old at all, built in around 1993. There is pacing footsteps, random noises, voices, etc. Always happens when everyone is asleep, if everyone else is out of the house. My family has had our house exorcised twice, and both times they would say our house has no bad spirits or energy. Nothing would happen for 6 days, then it would start up again. It's like we're being tormented. Now that I've started telling people about these strange occurrences, my phone alarm goes off every night between 3 and 3:30 a.m. This is seriously creeping me out, and we don't want to move out because we've had the house for 20 years. We don't know what's happening. Any advice? Most of my dreams as a kid were really weird, yet somehow told me the future. I had a dream when I was about 4, and every week I would dream about the dream in parts. People I loved, known, and seen slowly become walking skeletons. I remember my mom picking me up in this golden museum, and I saw a room where my aunt was playing with a cat. Fast forward, now I'm 15, and she has the same cat I dreamt of in that dream. Honestly creepy for me. Heard constant banging from my neighbor through the walls. No, not that kind of banging. I mean like a hammer on a nail or something. All of a sudden, I heard a blood-curdling scream and everything was silent. I saw him the next day with a bandage around his thumb. Yeah, he slammed a hammer on his thumb. When I was about 9, I couldn't sleep at all. It was probably 2 or 3 in the morning when I decided that I was just going to go to my parents' room and sleep in their bed with them. Their bedroom is on the complete other side of the house, so I ran as fast as I could. When I heard a noise, then I looked into my living room and saw a tall black silhouette just standing in the center of the room. It was almost like I made eye contact with an unknown vessel. After a few seconds of eye contact, I ran even faster to my parents' room, fell asleep, never saw it again. I was in 4th grade when there was a rumor going around that a ghost haunts the classroom, and how it would send notes to people that were angry. I was the only one who didn't believe it, and everyone said that I had angered the ghost, so I challenged it. I wrote a note saying that the ghost wasn't real, and whatever it was fake. I left it in a file drawer on top of all of the files. I closed it, and a few minutes later, a loud bang on the drawer happened. I opened the drawer, and there was a children's drawing of what looked like being stabbed with a knife. I was terrified. Myself and my now ex-wife moved into a new house with our son, who was only a few months old at the time. The house felt like a happy place, but nonetheless a lot of strange things happened over the first few weeks. Things inexplicably going missing, my son's musical toys suddenly going off in the night, strange noises, etc. Anyway, my son had a CD of nursery rhymes that we used to play for him, and one night about midnight, the CD player in his room just switched itself on and the gingerbread man started playing. Here's the really creepy part. The CD jumped just as the man was reciting the lines, "I'm the gingerbread man," so it sounded like, "I'm the dead man." This was too much for me. I ran into his room and saw that my son was sleeping peacefully. The weird stuff just suddenly stopped, and we lived in that house for 6 years without another incident.
Now, for those of you that know me know that I'm open to the possibility of anything but haven't experienced anything. But I can say, without a doubt, that children's toys have the highest potential of freaking you out in the middle of the night.
We were on holiday in the Lake District, renting this cool converted church with a tower. The room we used was at the base of the tower, and one night I had woken up out of a sleep for a few minutes when I heard a child's voice right in my ear say something. It was so close and relatively loud, and so quick I didn't catch what was said, other than it was 2 words. I just about cacked my pants, as it definitely wasn't me dreaming. I froze and lay there, but nothing else happened. As far as we were aware, the place wasn't haunted, and it definitely wasn't my significant other. as she was on the other side of me sleeping. Very weird. Nothing else happened while we were there though. A friend and I were staying in a cabin and watching the stars one night. One star began splitting into several stars and then returning back into one. After a half hour or so, it zoomed at us in a split second and stopped about 12 feet away and then zoomed back into space and disappeared. It took us a while to fall asleep that night. When I was 3, I had a dream or vision of me and my family setting up some what seemed to be new tents at a park, and 9 years later, that exact thing happened. It was the exact thing, down to the minute details like the bicycle riders and the family photo not too far away. I still get moments of deja vu every now and then. I know it's kind of normal compared to other people's stories, but I still thought it was weird. I have a few. Situation 1. I was pretty young at the time and was at a Halloween carnival held in a high school gym in the country. Place was packed. I remember looking over and seeing someone who was about a head taller than everyone around them. The guy had on sunglasses and demon-type horns. At a glance, I thought it was a really good costume, far better than anything I would have ever thought I'd see at a very rural podunk high school. He was also bald and smoking a cigar while smiling at everyone around him. I remember thinking I should tell someone that he was smoking. I looked away for not even a second and he was gone. I tried finding him again, but he wasn't in the gym at all. It didn't hit me until later that he was even taller than the adults that were there. I asked others about the guy later, only to be told that no one matching that description had been at the carnival. Odds are high that this was just a trick of the light, and that I'd seen someone who just went all out for high school, but it creeped me out at the time. Situation 2. Another one that I had was more of a series of events that happened at a house I used to live in. I'd wake up to the sensation of someone pressing down on the bed. It was like someone was sitting on the edge, and in one case, like they were run or jumping up on down the side. At the time, I had no pets, and we didn't have a rodent issue. In another situation, I woke up to the feeling of someone yanking my hair backwards over the headboard, which was relatively low. I was irritated and reached back there, thinking it was my pillow had fallen back there. I felt something filling the gap, but it didn't really feel like a pillow, so I just rolled over and went back to sleep, making sure to tuck my ponytail under my head. Looked back there later after waking up and the space wasn't full. Another situation I experienced was I woke to the feeling of someone stroking my hair in a motherly-ish fashion. The sensation stopped as soon as I froze up. Sometime later, I had a similar experience where a hand was slapping the back of my neck, like it was trying to get me to wake up. I ignored it since I wanted to just go back to sleep. However, the next thing I felt was a figure jumping on me and weighing me down. I could feel a hand on either side, as well as a foot or leg further down. I had some trouble drawing breath and woke up. The last experience I had at that house was on a night where I was all alone. I woke to the sight of something at the foot of my bed. It had long hair and red eyes, was kind of the height and general shape of a little girl. It was glaring at me with a palpable hatred. I remember thinking I should turn on the light to see if it would go away, but then thought better of it. If it was really there, I didn't think it would be any better with the light on. I decided to just roll over and go back to sleep. If it was going to get me, it'd get me. Of course, I woke up just fine the next day. Now, I assume that this is sleep paralysis, night hag syndrome, since it fits the description pretty well. What gives it the slight edge of doubt was that my niece kept saying that she was a lady in the house that would scare her when she tried to sleep. That was likely her trying to avoid going to bed though. In any case, it makes for a great spooky story to tell people. It's not creepy, but certainly unexplainable. In 2008, I was scheduled for major surgery. As I was filling out my pre-op paperwork before the surgery, I checked no on accepting a blood transfusion if something went wrong. A few hours later, as the staff is prepping me about me to put me under, I bolted upright and started crying, telling the nurses and doctors that I checked no on my paperwork and that something felt wrong, and I wanted to change my answer on the form. They dosed me up with something to calm me down, explaining I was just nervous and was in good hands. As they put the anesthesia mask over my mouth, I was still crying and begging for them to change my paperwork. I woke up in recovery, The doctor said the surgery went fine and I'd be discharged in 3 days. Within 6 hours of the surgery, I started bleeding internally and required multiple blood transfusions and nearly died. Apparently, the surgeon had nicked an artery in surgery and thought it was under control when they sewed me back up. I still can't explain what happened on my end, and one of the nurses told me I kind of freaked everyone out, knowing I'd need a transfusion.
Well, I think this is pretty awesome. Now you have something that could be some type of guardian angel or premonition or deja vu situation, and you have witnesses. So, pretty awesome. And glad you made it out okay.
When I was around 6 or 7 years old, we lived in a house with a lot of acreage. It's nothing fancy, but it did have a lot of ground. In the backyard was this huge billet rubber tree. Our neighbors have frequently tried to tell us that an entity lived in that tree, but we paid it no mind. I mean, why would we? Depending on who you ask, is one of the following. A many-eyed woman in a white dress. She had eyes even at the back of her head, which was weird because they claimed she had long hair. B. A gigantic man perpetually smoking tobacco, a Caprian Filipino lore, normally hanging around on one of the tree branches. C. A faceless lady in black. Out of the three, can you guess who took the time to meet and greet? I should tell you that I was a very brave kid. The dark didn't bother me, and I frequented the backyard evening during nighttime to fetch water. We also had a well in the backyard. I also believed that creepy things happened at night. One afternoon after school, I was busy playing with my grandmother's old pedal-powered sewing machine. I really liked watching the wheels spin. It also made a monotonous mechanical noise. This sewing machine was resting against the back of a bookcase. My grandmother was eating a late lunch a few feet away, and the sounds of the TV could be heard in the distance. Wait, why did it suddenly become so quiet? The sudden silence was the first thing that made my hair raise on end. It was sudden. It was foreboding. My ears strained for sound. Nothing came. The next thing was the sudden cold. Not freezing cold, but more like a cold sweat. Really cold sweat. Did I say that I was still pressing on the pedal of the sewing machine? And then I felt it. Rough, cold hands, like they've been in frozen ground for so long, they've sucked the warmth out of everything they touch. They were on top of mine on a pedal of a sewing machine, pinning them down as if to stop me from moving. I knew I was screaming at this point. My throat felt sore from the effort, but no sound came. I tried to pull back from those gnarly, bony hands, but they held me in place. And then her face was just an inch or so from mine. How to describe it? Her face looked incredibly smooth, like no pores at all, except where her eyes should be were hollow spaces with stretched skin to fill the void. She could have been beautiful, if you forget she had no eyes, and that the hair was a dirty, tangled, oily mess, or that it was obvious she was trying to smell me. I think she finally got a good whiff because she smiled. I will say this, a good dentist would have had a really good time fixing her teeth. They were yellow and chipped like they've been in the well, the one in our backyard. It had notoriously rusty water, and she had used her teeth to bite into rocks, or someone used her mouth as a batting practice. It had sores and blood, or at least I hope that the black substance that was oozing from her gums was blood. She made this open-mouthed smile that sported all the horrors of her mouth, and I feel like I should faint from the smell. Looking back, she must have come from the bookcase, since she looked like she was only halfway out of it. I can't see her legs, but it did look like she had a really long torso. And just like that, she was gone. One moment, all that horror was happening, and the next I was back. The TV was droning on in the background, and my grandmother had this wide-eyed look on her face because apparently I really was screaming. From that point on, I started seeing what the neighbors have been telling us for so long and then some. I saw the lady with eyes all over her head by the tree, but it looked like she didn't pay me any mind. I stayed away from the Capri. That lady with no eyes though, she made life really hard. I tried pretending the neighborhood, even during the day, when I get to see her, to buy things from the store. She will buy the shower stall when I'm on the toilet. She will stare at me from across the garden when I get off the school bus. The nights were horrible. She will run her nails over the glass of the windows, and I will often wake up to see her at the foot of the bed. She would often grab me, and it took all of my willpower not to scream every time this happens. It was only a few years ago when I found out the story behind the lady. She was apparently someone who worked nights, and one of her patrons got obsessed with her. After he confessed and got rejected, he proceeded to kidnap her. For 2 days, he did terrible things that a normal human wouldn't think up. He broke all her bones, peeled off parts of her skin to turn them into a coin purse. He stuffed barbed wire, bottles, and wood pieces up her A and V, etc. When he was finally caught, he said he took her eyes because she looked at him defiantly. Even when in so much pain, he sprayed acid on them, and when that didn't melt her eyeballs, he used forceps. Lastly, he threw her into the well. Yes, that well. The well in our backyard. With broken bones all over, she hung from her teeth on the chain holding the pail until her strength ran out and she finally drowned. We left that house shortly before I got into high school. I heard that the new owners filled the well over. I knew she wouldn't be happy with that. They should have known. I should have told them. But to be fair, would they even believe me?